Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Kevin Lee Show. Thank you for coming on. This is an 8-part series that I will be releasing every week on Monday at 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. The preface for this interview is based around a primary question that I learned from Tony Robbins attending his business mastery event in Amsterdam. And it is based around, if your core business was completely disrupted tomorrow, what would you do? How would you pivot or innovate? And during this time of the recording, we're going through the COVID pandemic. And so I thought it was very fitting interviewing people from around the world in different industries to see how they've pivoted and innovated in their struggling industries. And so the idea is to inspire and encourage people who need it. And so I hope everyone can learn a few lessons from these experts. I hope you enjoy the show. Thank you. Today, we have Stuart Cook, the previous CEO of Zambrero, an international quick service Mexican restaurant chain. During his time as CEO, Stuart increased revenue from 1.1 million to over 75 million in sales and expanded the business into 3 countries. Stuart, along with the founder, developed the Plate for Plate initiative, where every meal sold within a Zambrero restaurant is matched by a meal donated to someone in need. As of December 2019, Plate for Plate provided over 35 million meals. One of Stuart's original investments was in 2011 with the Entourage, which has grown to become Australia's largest entrepreneurship education company. And in 2020, Stuart co-founded Flave in Sydney, Australia, with a mission to make the freshest and tastiest 100% plant-based meal subscription, delivered weekly to your door. Everyone, please help me welcome Stuart. Hey Stuart, how are you doing, buddy?
Really good, thanks, Kevin. Lovely to meet you, and thanks for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for jumping on. I've heard so much about you through my friends, and I've been asking them to please get me in an appointment with you, and I'm really thankful for your time. I know you're a busy guy. As I mentioned before, your bios have already been recorded before for everyone to hear, and so I just want to get straight into the backstory of Flave and how is it running at the moment. Please share.
Sure. So to make a long story great, around the background of Flave, so my wife and I, after I exited Zambrero, is that we went on a 1-year honeymoon around the world. And so then on that amazing journey and working out what we wanted to do for our future careers and our next lot of businesses, is my wife got actually really, really sick in Costa Rica. And then as part of her, and she had to get airlifted to hospital, 7 days in intensive care, pumped full of broad spectrum antibiotics. And then as part of her recovery process is that the doctors actually said that she needed to have a 100% plant-based diet, go vegan for a full month. And because her body had just been stripped of all of its microbiomes within its stomach. And so that was a way to really just reintroduce those healthy gut back and healthy microbiomes back into her stomach. I begrudgingly agreed. I wasn't a vegan at the time, and didn't think much of it. But then during that process of a month, my wife and I lost a lot of weight. We felt really good, and then after that month, we were traveling into Europe, and so Europe is not known for being very vegan friendly, and this is again 2016, and so we were looking at. This sort of has always rattled our minds, and we're looking at how could we make plant-based cuisine super convenient, amazing flavor, and not sacrificing on anything. Because the more and more we studied about the impact of animal agriculture in the world, not only on our health, but also animals, but also mainly from around climate change and being a leading contributor towards that. We realized that probably our next goal was to create a global brand where we're helping that transition of people who want to reduce their meat consumption every week to be able to play a greater role in climate change. So that's where Flave was born. And so, my wife and I were also very fortunate to meet our fellow co-founder, Jan Packers, who's a multi-business entrepreneur, tech founder, and really, really great partner to have. And he was also along the same similar type of journey. And so we've partnered together to form Flave and a couple of other companies in the plant-based space. Mm-hmm. And so, that leads us today. So our dream is to build 1,000 restaurants, or our dream was to build 1,000 restaurants all around the world. And we just finished a capital raise, and I think it was around March 10th.
Mm-hmm.
We're about to sign a lease in Bondi, a $250,000 lease in a prime position. But then, little inklings over in China about this coronavirus yet to be named COVID emerged. And it just happened to be that one of our advisory board members is ex-Starbucks and lives in China.
Yep.
And so, speaking with her every week, we started hearing things, and that's where we put a big pause on signing a big lease. So, yeah, that was sort of a bit of the backstory. Very close. And so, again, Flave is a fast casual dining concept that's going to be burgers and bowls. And the goal is to be an amazing concept that just happens to be plant-based. And so I think that there's a lot of plant-based restaurants and vegan restaurants and cafes, things that, definitely scream at you that they are very whole foods, organic, and not to discredit them at all, but like a little bit more on the hippie spectrum.
Yep.
There's a lot of consumers, especially male, and this is starting to change as well. They're not wanting to, there is that stigma around some of the types of that food, and that it's not going to be fulfilling or it's not going to taste as good. And so the goal for Flave is to be able to take people on that journey about trying different alternative proteins and introduce them to some of that idea that plant-based product is just as good, if not better, than anything else that they've ever had. And so I was quite fortunate to find an amazing chef. I wanted to find a great chef to be our partner who knew how to cook and still cooked with meat, because he knew what consumers would want. And so, but still also be very familiar with plant-based cuisine. And so I couldn't have picked somebody better, but I came across Scott Finlay. He happened to be Sir Paul McCartney's former private chef for 7 years.
Wow.
Traveling around the world with Sir Paul McCartney, cooking him vegan meals for him and his wife. He's also toured with Beyonce, Rihanna, Pink Floyd, Elton John.
Wow.
So, I mean, he's cooked for the stars around the world. And so, and when you're cooking on tour, you have to access all the very unusual cuisines and different ingredients lists. Like, the stories he's got is amazing. And so, we grabbed him, and he's come on board as our, founding chef and leading our menu innovation. And, we're creating a company that we want to live and breathe, and I eat their product every day now.
Yeah. I love how your story of your wife and how that kind of transited. Like, it's a very strong why for you guys, obviously, because it hit very close to home. And then how you guys went from that into a vegan concept to promote what you guys believe in, and then combined it with somebody who's toured with world stars, and that's part of his specialty as well, curating these vegan meals for them. And so it sounds like a super, it's like a winning combination to go off. And so great concept, great team. Now, moving on, what kind of business model are you guys running? Obviously, because as you mentioned, you're about to sign that lease, and you can't now because of the COVID situation.
Yeah. So we had to pivot quite quickly, and we made the decision very, very quickly to move to a meal subscription business. So we'd already developed the menu, and so the burgers and bowls menu. And so we managed to find a supplier called Hero Foods. They actually make vegan products and sell them in Coles and Woolworths. And we actually partnered with them to use some of their spare manufacturing capacity. So we didn't have to buy any equipment. We just effectively pay them a price per unit in order to turn our bowls into subscription meal kits. So our customers sign up on flave.com. They enter in how many meals they want a week. We've got a broad selection of meals, soon to be breakfast, lunch, dinner. At the moment, just lunch and dinner. And then you can pick them, and they're delivered to them every Monday evening. And so, where they can change all the time. So that's sort of the very quick pivot, because we wanted to also reduce our burn. So we do have Scott, we do have myself, and a couple of other staff that were preparing for opening restaurants.
Yeah.
And we still will open restaurants, but the challenging thing is that I think that for restaurants, there's still tough times ahead. I think we're speaking here in the end of May, mid to end of May, and restaurants are just allowed 10 people to open, but they're also very fortunate that the Australian government pushed them to reduce the rent, and landlords getting relief. But we're yet to see what is going to whether or not COVID has changed consumer confidence in the short term. I think it will, but then will it change customer habits for the long time to come? Mm-hmm. And I've got my theories around that. And so I think that it's still a bit of a wait and see. So some meal subscription is there because, again, our overarching goal is to provide plant-based cuisine convenient to billions. Like that is our goal. And so is that by getting meal subscription and to people, that is one of those channels that we can actually do that. And we'll be doing the retail play as well by selling those ready-made meals in potentially the likes of Harris Farms and IGAs and things as well.
Okay.
But that's sort of how our pivot happened in the last sort of 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Which feels like a lifetime ago.
A lot has happened since then, I'm sure, like with the pivot and trying to move everything and make it sustainable and make it workable. I can imagine like you guys would be working day and night trying to get this together.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to pack that. And so you're essentially working on a model where your people go onto your as a platform to your website, to Flave, and they can order subscription meals from there. And the other model that you're working towards is teaming up with possibly Harris Farm and the wide other outlets that they can get your meals through them as well.
Yeah, and we're also even looking at the B2B component of corporate catering because, I think corporates are now starting to look at their overarching environmental impact, and I think consumers are demanding that as well. So if we can go in and actually provide meals for a meatless Monday or once a month or a once a week type thing from a catering standpoint, that's also a model that we're exploring as well.
Yeah, great. I'm also curious of how your delivery model might be. I'm also in the hospitality industry, and I understand there's a lot of resistance with using, like, for example, Uber Eats at the moment. How are you guys working with delivery of all?
We chose not to use them. So I mean, that was one of the ideas, but it's one thing because we didn't have an existing restaurant. And all the staff and things. I mean, it's one thing to have restaurant and normal sales and delivery add as a extra sort of, yes, your margins won't be as big, but you can add like penny profit to it if you've got a normal restaurant operating. Mm-hmm. But we decided to go with a meal subscription because there is better margins. We've actually partnered with Oz Harvest. We've partnered with their delivery trucks to be able to use them after hours to take, again, using excess capacity.
Yep.
So again, that's helping a charity earn additional revenue, employ their drivers more when there was definitely some downtime for them. So our goal is to be take advantage of as many resources out there and not have to and be environmentally as conscious as possible.
Well, I love that model that you're leveraging off all existing platforms that you can work with. And that is sustainable and it is congruent as well with your values.
Yeah.
In terms of how you're letting people know, as you mentioned, you weren't able to launch a restaurant. You don't have a physical space. How are you able to reach all these people and get the message out there and get people ordering all this subscription?
Yeah, look, it is tough. I could tell you it's all rosy and we've got thousands and thousands of orders. And at the moment, because we're a brand new company with no existing reach, like people don't know what Flave is. So it's having conversations with people, delivering amazing customer experience, and then then them referring on somebody and then them referring on somebody. We just finished our brand strategy, and so we will start doing paid social media advertising and SEO and SEM and everything like that. But that will be one part of the strategy, but it will also be using our existing networks, influencers as well. Influencers during this time haven't been able to go out and get their amazing lifestyle pics, so a few of them are hungry.
Yeah.
But also is that it has helped that we partnered with a chef that also has got some amazing connections and some really good friends of his who have been helping us out. And I think that's one of the nice things about COVID is that I almost feel that it's definitely reunited a sense of community, even though the physical touch is less and you feel like a little bit of a rude guy not shaking someone's hand when you see them, giving a little elbow tap.
Yeah.
But, even though everybody's told to sneeze in their elbow. So
that's right. It's like we're all touching our eyes.
So I think that whole everybody sort of looking after each other is really helping, and I think it's and so helping the little guys, the new guys, definitely is something that we're benefiting from.
Yeah, and especially when you're standing for a message such like yours, it's very powerful, and like I can tell you that referral strategy is working very well. It's reached all the way to me, and I've thought about it, and I've told my friends about it as well. So it's
you haven't ordered yet.
No, I haven't yet. That's step 2, right?
That's the next one. But it is.
Step 1 awareness, step 2 order.
It is good. But again, you got to feel for a lot of the other restaurants out there that are doing it tough. A lot of them won't be able to reopen, or they'll fall over probably in September, October.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like we have a vision, and as cheesy as that, but our vision is to save the world. We're there, and I mean, we did this. We've got a track record of it as well. My wife was the CEO of a charity, one disease at a time. My background was Zambrero, where we're doing plate for plate, where every time we fed somebody in our restaurants, we fed a child overseas.
Yeah.
And so, I think that purpose-driven organizations are definitely are going to become more of the norm.
Yeah.
Because I think they need to be.
Yeah, no doubt. I think I really align with what you guys believe in, because I feel like, especially in entrepreneurship these days, it's not just about building a concept and building revenue and making money. It's also about the impact and the benefit that you can give to the people as well. It's like you've got to do both at the same time, not just one or the other kind of thing.
And one of the things that we pride ourselves on, and what Flave is going to be about, I'm not 100% plant-based. I would like to be. But I get the urge, just like anybody else, to go and do it. And the people who are committed 100%, I applaud them, and I look to get there one day. But the whole goal is to be able to create products that are just capture those urges and allow people to still have amazing meals or cheap meals and things like that are plant-based, but without making an impact on the world through animal agriculture. The way that they have in the past.
I agree. I've tried to go down that road as well with the vegan, and it's been on and off, to be honest. It's on and then it's off, but then it's having options like what you guys offer, that we can choose from, more variety and tasty, that we can encourages us to give it a go more.
Definitely.
And as long as we give it a go, as long as we try it, at least there was going to be an impact regardless, even if it's small ripples.
100%.
Moving on to the next question, I want to ask you, what major learns have you had from this, or would you do anything differently after going from pivoting from that to an online subscription model?
I think the one thing that we've had to, you can pivot so quickly, you can give yourself whiplash. And so speed is important, but also pivoting with a plan is really important. I would say that I'll give myself a B for that. I think that still knowing that you're pivoting into a market that is actually wants what you need is still really important, not just because you can do it.
Yeah, yeah.
I still think we've made the right decision, but and like intuitively that I knew, because I use meal subscriptions myself. I've had issues with other plant-based meal subscriptions that have been really untasty and not fun, and I get over it within a week. So in a way, I knew that myself was a definitely customer who would be ordering this and paying for this every single week.
Yeah.
But did I know the size of the market and everything before pivoting? No, I probably could have done that. And I think that that's important when you're a larger company. If you're a single cafe or a smaller business that's got an existing customer base that you can leverage, then doing what you can to be able to survive during this time, to be able to then open up later and still have that customer loyalty is important.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to launch a brand new market in this, if you're pivoting before you've even launched, you just definitely have to take a step back and realize, like, what are we actually doing? Is this still aligned with the vision? How is it going to work in? Because we also don't want to be a meal subscription business that it's weird, that it sounds weird to the customer that they open up a restaurant later.
Yeah.
It's sort of like a Matt Moran can start a subscription business, but it's hard to go the other way back.
Yeah.
So we do have to be mindful of that in our messaging and our consumer and our consumer
It's all right. Come on.
Communication, yeah.
Well, look, it is weird times, and so weird times call for weird actions, right? We might have to work things differently, and like you have to make things work on your end.
Yeah.
And talking about weird times with this whole during this time of recording, we're obviously still going through the COVID pandemic around the world, and in Australia where we are, we are on stage 1 release, meaning that we can let 10 people dine in, which is still not too much for a hospitality restaurant. And so I wanted to, now we can dive into a bit more of this, and I wanted to get your thoughts on, how do you think this whole thing will transform the future of this industry?
Particularly in food?
Particularly in food, yes.
So I think that there's definitely going to, I think I shouldn't use absolutes. I think that there is going to be a definite drive to the digital. We already knew that was coming. I think it's accelerated that.
Yep.
I've got friends in China, and I did a food tour of China last March, and they're so far ahead of us. I think that our labor model makes it a little bit more difficult because drivers are more expensive. And so until autonomous vehicles and things come in, which is still a very long way away, I think it's still going to always challenge our delivery model.
Yeah.
And, ghost kitchens and all of those type of things where you don't actually have physical stores or restaurants, but you have more communal kitchens that could then service certain areas, I think will pop up more and more. But whether or not they can get the financial model really dialed in, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that fast casual should pop back a little bit faster, but I think that there's going to be a lot of large scale full service dining restaurants that are going to be really challenged during this time. But if they can innovate themselves enough to even create online fast casual brands that are using their existing kitchen and infrastructure, that might be different ways to get around it. I think that the more, from the ordering and the customer feedback side, I think that people are rediscovering cooking.
Yep.
So I've got a number of friends who, I'm far too busy at the moment to be discovering cooking. But thankfully, I've got a food subscription business. But I think that if you look at Marley Spoon and Hello Fresh and everything like that, I think that they're doing incredibly well through this time. I think they've had like 400 or 500% growth.
Wow.
COVID. And so I think that will impact the overall the amount of dining. But on the flip side as well is that you then have to go look at the argument in that people over the years have been moving into smaller and smaller apartments as like they get moved, especially younger people.
Yeah.
And so they still have used those restaurants as a place of not only to eat, but also to socialize and to gather.
Yeah.
And you see that as a trend in a lot of Southeast Asia as well. Like it's where you go to meet. You don't go to people's homes and host big dinners and things because people often don't have the space for that.
Yeah.
So I think especially so, yeah, I don't know how that impacts it directly, but I still think there is going to be a need and people will go out. But whether or not people are going to feel comfortable right next to each other at a very small bar while there isn't a vaccine, I don't know. It makes me a little bit sad to think about it. Like, yeah, I'm not sure if everybody's going to go and be jam-packed in a bar where they're pushing past to get drinks, and there's something fun about that as well. So it would just be interesting to see, because it's probably another year away from getting vaccines, and so I don't think the government are going to allow that sort of amount of people in restaurants or bars or clubs and things.
Yeah.
And so that will be over a year to 18 months of habitual change. And so will people ever want to go back to that? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Wow. What a different world we could be possibly looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, as you were mentioning before as well, like that behavior change, for example, we're in stage 1 release now, and then maybe in a month or two, we might go to stage 3, possibly, where our Australian government allows 100 people to go out to restaurants. And so when that opens up, and then, we start hiring back staff, and then our expenses start to go back to the usual. But people's behaviors and habits have changed. So we're down 50% or more in terms of traffic.
Yeah.
Yet we're stuck with these expenses. It's like, how's that going to work?
And so I've got a couple of friends who are insolvency accountants and lawyers.
Yeah.
And so they haven't actually seen a big jump yet. And they're all betting that is September, October, when JobKeeper stops, the government assistance program for keeping people employed. But then also the rental abatements from landlords. That's when they're seeing the big jump. I was on a the future of the restaurant industry webinar the other day with a good friend of mine, Doug Coop, who's over in San Francisco, and between San Francisco and Seattle. But he was talking about that like 50% of restaurants in Seattle and San Francisco of the dining experience most probably won't reopen after all this. So it's going to hit the industry hard. And then I think what's going to be interesting is that these dining precincts are going to like evolve as well, because if half of them in one strip then shut down, will it actually, all of those customers then go to those other ones? So the ones who actually survive will actually thrive, or will it reroute the way that people are actually dining as well? So that's why I'm also not prepared to sign a lease yet, because especially with fast casual restaurants, you are relying a fair bit on foot traffic. And, until when office workers, especially in the CBD locations, are coming back and how many of them, you want to just sit back and watch what happens.
Yeah. Absolutely agree. It's like I had two thoughts that came up when you mentioned that. And one of it is, like, say, for example, in America, in the US, thousands of restaurants are going to close, and they're probably never going to reopen. Like, they're going to be closed permanently. But the thing is that even though thousands of these restaurants are going to be closed, there is still a very similar population still there that still need food. And like that's definitely one area of opportunity that they can work with. That there still needs to serve. Like, we need to creatively work how to serve these people. And the second thing was, I was listening to a recent podcast by Tim Ferriss with Alinea Group, Nick Kokonis, and they said that during this time, there's going to be somebody out there who has amazing talent, amazing creativity, but was never able to afford a shop front or fit out. But this time, you know, with people exiting and leaving shops completely fitted out, these creative people with all these skills are going to come along and kick our butts when the time comes. And it's like it's a good thing as well. You know, they will have the opportunity to start and give it a good shot and serve the community in a different way.
And this is the hardest thing about this time, is that nobody's gone through it, and there's really intelligent people on all sides of the arguments. Yeah. So I mean, if I look at it and I go to your point there as well, I agree. Like the small individual operators, you know, back in Zambrero days, it was quite hard to sometimes compete against some of those individual operators, and who were mum and dad working in the store, grandma's out the back cooking. It's hard to bet. They're probably not paying GST because they've got heaps of cash and they're undercutting your price. And so, they're not paying tax or the people correctly. Like, so that would be normal. But I think nowadays, because of it's all contactless,
correct,
it is changed that cash mentality. But also those individual operators aren't very good at understanding their cost of goods, their unit economics, their wage bills. And so, you know, like you go to King Street, Newtown, and I call that the street of like broken dreams, because so many people like save up enough money to open up a cool little cafe, and they expect 1,000 people are going to come through it. And like, no. And so I can make an argument for that, but then I can also make an argument for the really good, bigger operators with proven brands and systems might do quite well out of this. But you know, just prior to COVID, everyone was going against brands. Like, I think the individual cool cafes and operators, like, you know, they were the ones that were succeeding, and that's why coffee brands as a whole in Australia aren't doing incredibly well. It's usually these individual operators.
Yes. I also wanted to ask, moving forward now, what are you going to be focusing on, putting a lot of your focus on at the moment or in the near future in terms of projects?
No, getting customers.
It's
just customers and looking after them, tweaking our product, making sure that we're fulfilling that need. And, you know, if my mates order once and then don't order again, I'm going to ask them why. Without doing the guilt side of things, because again, that's a big part of our brand proposition, is that we don't want to make people feel badly. Like, I'm not going to go, you're a bad man, you are wrecking the earth. Like, I want it to be on their choice and their terms, and create help them do something incrementally good for themselves and the world every single day. Like, that's the goal. So just obsessing about the customer.
Same. I'll be focusing on the same thing over here as well. We're going to need it.
Yeah.
Would you be able to share with us what daily tools or rituals you use for your well-being and or for growing your companies or businesses?
Sure. So I'll start with I actually have a productivity coach over the last year and a half. So I can send you the link, but it's just faster2master.com. There's some really good tools and things on that. And so I was having weekly calls with him about systemizing my business, because I used to be a bit of all over the place in not creating a systems. And so, you know, the best way to talk about, which is kind of relevant at the moment because of Michael Jordan documentary, is that Michael Jordan wasn't the greatest basketball of all time because he learned to master the triple backflip slam dunk. He just did the jump shot really, really well. And so when you get those fundamentals into your everyday life, and for me, it's getting up in the morning. I've got I won't go through all of it, but
it's okay.
I go through, do 10 minutes of meditation, look at my 12-week, I do a overarching vision that I look at on a weekly basis, but I've got a 12-week vision. And then I've got the 12-week vision I go through. I then do a journal for 5 minutes. But it's write down everything. It's a bit different journal. So you write down everything, just comes to brain, and then you throw it away. So that you never look back at it. So you can be angry at someone and never be afraid that they're going to ever read it, or, it's just sort of like cleansing a whole bunch of thoughts out of the brain.
Yeah.
And then ideally I go to the gym. I haven't been going to the gym recently, but or working out as much, but I know if I start my day in a good way there. But then there's a daily team huddle. So what people are working on, what are they excited about, and then how can somebody else help them to do their job better?
Yeah.
So it's, again, like, I believe in subservient. So I believe in servant leadership, where you're empowering your team. And so that's my role as the CEO, is just to empower the people around me to achieve and just excel at their roles.
Yep.
And then, at the end of the day, I do a shutdown. So make sure that you clear off anything that you can do in under 2 minutes, put in Asana or anything greater than that, and then plan out your priorities for the next day. So, I know if I do my AM and my PM rituals, then I think magic happens. But if I don't, I start to go off the rails.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one. And I wanted to quickly ask, with your 10-minute meditation, do you do a specific meditation or any form or any sort?
I use Headspace.
Yep.
I haven't graduated to the more advanced ones yet, but Headspace has been my friend. And so, I still haven't mastered Headspace, but I'll choose their programs based off, their 10 or 20 day programs based off where I'm feeling at the time. And if I have trouble sleeping, I'll even put the 3-minute or 5-minute sleep meditation at night, and it always works. So
I think Headspace is great, and like Andy's voice is so easy to listen to. It's very easy. It's easy to follow. I'd recommend it to anyone, and especially if they're getting into meditation, for sure.
And the other thing that I've done as a way, because if I am needing a break or something, I was switching occasionally to downloading a game or watching YouTube mind-numbingly just for a break. But I have also downloaded Elevate on it's sort of like Lumosity on my phone. And so just going through the daily 5-minute of that, because that helps me increase my vocabulary and just sort of sharpens my brain a little bit each day as well.
Okay. So is that Elevate's just spelled Elevate? Yeah. Okay.
It's an app that you do. And Fitstop is the gym. So I'm the chairman of that gym chain. And so we've got Fitstop online now. Fitstop at home. And so we've got 30 gyms around Australia and got another 38 that are about to open. So, that was definitely impacted during COVID, having to shut 30 gyms on, I think it was March 22nd. So, but that company pivoted and went online and with its own app quite quickly. And so they do great workouts from home. And then there's a really cool stretching tool called GoWOD, which is
GoWOD? How do you spell it?
GOWOD.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, so it's like a CrossFit type. It's designed for CrossFitters, but all my mates who use it, who aren't CrossFitters, just love it, because it sort of assesses where you are and gives you, like, depending on how long you've got, like 8, 15 or 22 minutes to do some stretching, you'll progress based off your weaknesses that you then sort of retest yourself once a month.
Yeah. Wow.
So.
Lots.
That's like, in a perfect world, I do all those things. Like I only do all that sort of stuff 60% of the time. So but I also know that, like, I'm a guy who's ADHD, in case you couldn't tell. But is that I think it's the most boring thing doing a checklist and going through these things the morning and night. I naturally am adverse to this, but I know that when I have all of that stuff done, it's sort of like probably 3 hours of my waking life of doing fitness and ritual and prep and end of workday stuff. If I get that right, the other rest of the time is a dream. It's just a constant battle.
I agree. I'm big on morning and night rituals as well, and I feel like yourself, I feel like I go off the rails if I don't do it, or if I start to let it go too much. So it's like my center I'll go back to.
Yeah. Another one that my productivity coach showed me is if you think of a sine wave like this,
Yep.
and think about that as my performance, is if I'm doing my fundamentals, then I'm going up like that, but then I'll stop. But I've still got momentum going up, so I think it's okay. So it doesn't trigger me to start it, and then I'll start getting worse from a productivity standpoint, and then you'll start it there on the slope on the way down. But
Gotcha.
you haven't hit the bottom yet because you have to then suddenly pull up, and
Yeah.
then you go like this sine wave. So the goal is to keep going so that you keep on getting better and better so that you can build up this momentum. And so I haven't reached that part yet, but I keep on just doing this sine wave, but at least he's identified where my issue is because I just get bored of it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a great analogy and tip to put it up to us. Yeah, I think that there's lots of value there, Stuart. I'm sure the listeners will have lots to look up and a lot of tools they can reach out to and look forward to. And as we wrap up, I just wanted to ask, how can people find or learn more about you or your businesses, Stuart?
So you can go, so I've got, I'm on Instagram, Stuart Cook, STUEYCOOK. We've got flave.com, FLAV.com. And my other business, which is sort of like my family office and advisory business, which has all of our investments and different work that we do, and investments in like angel investing or corporate advisory. That's called Twyo Capital.
Yep.
Spelled TWIYO Capital, which stands for The World Is Your Oyster.
Wow.
And so
Awesome.
yeah. I'm a bit cheesy, so yeah.
No, that's great because I was going to ask you how to pronounce that. Was it Twyo or Twyo?
Unfortunately, 60% of people say Twyo, but I like the sound of that. It's like meant to be Twyo. Sounds a bit stronger, but
yeah, I'll put all the resources and links and your connections to on the show notes for everyone to access. Cool. But I really do appreciate your time so much, Stuart. Yeah, I've had so much fun learning from you, and I hope that the viewers and listeners have too. Yeah, as we wrap up, thank you again for your time, buddy.
Oh, no, thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show. All the links to the show notes will be available at kevinleesocial.com, spelled KEVINLY. Conversely, if you have any interviews that you'd love to recommend, please send it over to kevinleesocial@gmail.com. I'd love to connect. Thank you. Until the next episode.